Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Yaler Moon. I am from many DAOs, as our profile says on the speaker page. Metacartel, Raid Guild, Mystic Whales, Whaler DAO, so many DAOs inside the Moloch ecosystem. As Shinju likes to say, we are the people of the DAOs, and this is Vengist.
Yeah. Are we just doing quick intros? Van Gist, I'm a designer by trade for many years. When I first got into crypto space, I was just like a graphic designer, UI designer, whatever. But these days, there's a lot more stuff to crypto than just money and things. It's really all about coordination and, new organizations, new ways of coordinating with one another to build a better world. What does that look like and how do we do it? All those things. So these days, I'm more of a designer of coordination, I guess. I design coordination mechanisms, try to design communities of coordination, and many DAOs, 78 to be exact, yeah.
So speaking of coordination, let's tell a little bit of the history of Moloch for people who might not know it, and then we can kind of go through Moloch V1 to Moloch V3 and how we got from where we were to where we are now.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I really got to touch this light. So Moloch DAO is a contract written in February of 2019. It was basically a community response to the original DAO hack. The code was meant to be like a minimal viable fix to that hack. Let's add a grace period and let's add an ability to rage quit and whatever. It was just a contract, but it started Moloch DAO, which was a DAO for just a bunch of people who put a bunch of ETH to give it away to devs who were building ETH 2.0. That was its goal. There was the Ethereum Foundation that was doing that as well, but it was just a bunch of people who self-organized in this DAO contract to pull their ETH and give it away to fund ETH 2 research, development, infrastructure, all the different things. It was literally just community members self-organizing to give money away. And then Metacartel, Peter Pan, tried to join Moloch DAO, and they rejected him. He hadn't built up quite the reputation in the space yet. So, yeah, they didn't let him in. It's a DAO. You have to be accepted by the DAO. You can't in a Moloch DAO, you can't just go buy tokens on the market and you're a member of the DAO. You literally have to be submit a proposal to the DAO. Why am I here? What are you going to bring? And literally every person in the DAO can vote yes or no. And he was rejected. So we started Metacartel, which was literally just a fork of that one code, that one contract, the Moloch DAO contract. So then there was Metacartel, which is where we met. So
Metacartel was founded basically to build the DApp layer of Ethereum, and they've
where Moloch DAO was focused on funding people self-organizing to fund ETH 2.0, Metacartel focused on funding the devs who were working on the dApps, like the application layer of Ethereum, like any application, like their first grant, pure grant, not an investment, no expectation of ROI. Literally, are you building a cool thing? Here's $5,000. Keep building it. That was it. That was the point of Metacartel.
And still, our alma maters give free money away to talented people in the space. We never ask for equity or tokens or anything like that. We're a pure grant-giving DAO, true to the ethos of the original Moloch DAO as well. But I think what has been interesting about Metacartel is the evolution of culture inside of the cartel, right? The community-first culture. We have a manifesto on our GitHub, the community-first manifesto. Go read it. It's great. It's super inspiring. But that ethos of supporting each other, building together. Our slogan is, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go fast, if you want to go
fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
So it's all about going together and bringing each other up and pushing forward the things we're doing together. So that's kind of become a cultural phenomenon as well as a great meme in this space as well for people who want to find a home in Ethereum. They want to find a home with builders to create cool stuff and govern value together. So Moloch V1, Pokemole,
So that was still you had two DAOs, and they were both just using the same code, the same smart contract. They literally just forked it, deployed it, and interacted with it. And then some of us built an interface so that there was an actual interface. People weren't just interacting with the contract. And then many other people started self-organizing around the same kind of contract. So they wanted to fork it as well because they wanted to self-organize in the same kind of primitive way, but for just a different purpose. Like, let's pool capital and fund this thing. Let's whatever. You can literally do that for anything. It was just like a new primitive way of self-organizing with, in a very, very trustless way. Like, nobody can spend a penny in the dime without literally everybody having a say in it. Like, everybody can vote yes or no on everything. There's no way for anybody to be like, this is the proposal and it's going to go through and I'm not going to ask everybody. Like, you just can't do that. It just has to go through the DAO. So, yeah, then many things got built off of that. Now there's like DAO House and people can just go and like launch Moloch DAO contracts with the push of a button, and then now they have a DAO and so on and so forth. And then we moved to Moloch v2. So like Moloch v1 was very much meant, the version 1 of the contract was very much meant for, that use case of self-organizing, people putting money in, putting stake basically into a DAO and then distributing it together, like for public goods, just giving money away basically. And then v2, and there were a lot of like complexities to that. Then v2 just kind of like opened it up to where like you could only have one token at the time, which was ETH, basically, just, but now you can, you could have like 200 tokens in the bank and like do all these crazy things. So.
And can you talk a little bit about like how the needs from the community using the DAOs actually influence the creation of v2 and v3?
Right. So yeah, that's a super important part. So like none of this is being built in a silo anywhere. It's just being all built in the open. The first line in the Moloch DAO code is still this code. That's the first line of code in the code, or at least in the README. But which is true, and it is like a. Wait, what was your question?
How the
right.
How the community influences.
So it's
the
all
product.
very, very emergent, and which means that there's nobody building it in a silo. It's all being built based on spoken needs from real communities trying to do things. It's all in an open space. Someone has an idea, people get together, they collaborate to build a better mechanism. Now everybody has it, that kind of stuff. So it's all literally for like 3 years now. It's just been emergent building based on like actual, the farthest reaches of coordination experiments that we have, across many different types of communities. Like, people these days are using DAOs not just for like self-organizing to give money away in a grants DAO, but like,
investment DAOs, clubs,
yeah,
like all
guilds,
kinds, guilds.
Yeah,
like DAOs of DAOs, which I think like the next iteration of what's coming with the Moloch v3 contracts enable so much more interesting like coordination of the DAOs and like DAOception.
Yeah, and it is again another response. There's nobody who owns this code. It's literally just anybody here is welcome to join the Discord and just like offer suggestions and write code and submit a PR. It's a very, very open process. So there are a lot of, so there is a V3 coming out in a few months, and everybody's pretty close. They're pretty far, like the community's pretty far, and it's about 95% through. Many different branches of a couple different experiments, and they're all based on like how there's thousands of DAOs. Like when Moloch DAO first started, and even back then, there were like not that many real, like a lot of DAOs of like people doing things together. There were like a lot of protocol DAOs of like, people voting to update a contract or whatever, but not like Raid Guild. Like, you should talk about Raid Guild a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Raid Guild was, I think, the first service DAO on Ethereum in the Moloch space specifically. It was created as a like developer-centric, kind of digital co-op for like developers, but people, like all people basically,
and designers.
Designers are developers, right? So, but I was not a designer or a developer. I was a bartender.
Technical and non-technical people. That's the important part, I think.
And so, but like, no technicals are needed to make impact in this space. Like, coming from service industry, working in hotels, restaurants, and stuff like that, I found myself asking Peter Pan in like Telegram. I was like, what does someone with my skill set do for a DAO? And he's like, just go in and I'm sure you'll figure it out, right? And so like going into the DAO, I started to see lots of like missing pieces where I'm like, oh, they need like welcoming stuff. They need people to like help shepherd these dev folks who I have no idea what they do or what the words they're saying mean into like channels. So like creating an onboarding experience, right? Like welcoming those people in, making pinned messages, learning all these things, right? Like I did a diagram out front, actually, like the keys to communication. It like runs you through Telegram, Discord, email, and like how to use all those things in a context of like an event or like a product that's like ongoing for years and years, or like doing contracts and stuff like that. So it's like using these tools and understanding like how best to facilitate communication and coordination between individuals. And that my ability to learn that was only because the community had the need for that. And I liked hanging out with these guys so much and like listening to them ramble about things like EIP 15 whatever that I was like, tell me more, I want to learn more, how can I help you like accomplish your mission, because I think that what you're doing is really cool and interesting and I want to help be a part of it. So I was able to learn these things, kind of level up, and sit in rooms with very smart people who have been thinking about this stuff for a long time, and then learn the skill sets that I could fill in the gaps and make it smoother and grow our ecosystem. So Raid Guild today has like over 120, 130 members. We have DAOs inside of DAOs. We have like different departments doing storytelling and graphic creation, and the archers and the designers, the smart contract people. And there's so many raid projects going on anymore that I have no idea. Like I can't even keep up. It's its whole own ecosystem, right? But it's still like very true to the DAO. There's no CEO. There's no CTO.
Right. So like the primitive, for those who don't know, like the way that Raid Guild works, it is just a collective of people working together that have either non-technical or technical skills. And it's called Raid Guild because it's like an RPG. Like somebody either comes in with an idea that they want something built and they want to fund a team to build it. So like people in the community self-select and self-organize into a raid party, and then they go and build it for that money. And then some of that goes back to the DAO so the whole community gets like, some back or whatever. But like the vast majority just goes straight to the people who work on those projects. And some ideas come from inside. There are a lot of incredible people who have a lot of badass ideas, who've been in the space building cool things for a long time. So sometimes they have their own ideas. And the guild funds itself to do those things, So ideas can be either external or internal, but it's just people self-organizing with literally no, like it's definitely like an experiment of like bottom-up coordination. There is no tiered anything.
Yeah, there's no managers assigning people tasks and asking. It's like, do you want to work with these people? And do you people want to work on this project? And it's like, if the match is good, if the fit is good, all through that like sussing out process, sometimes people will be like, you know what, this doesn't seem like a really cool project, and they'll just drop off. And we're like, okay, we need a new smart contract dev. So the people inside the group are incentivized to like collect that bounty from that client project, are going to bring in a friend, and then we're actually doing this whole onboarding thing where like new members who are friends of other members are championed into the DAO, and they learn how to work with a DAO, they learn how to coordinate with a DAO, and they find friends and allies, and like people who are junior devs become senior devs over the period of
very fast,
right? Because you're hanging out with people on Discord.
You're doing it in community. You're not doing it by yourself. That's like one of the really big power-ups that I love about DAOs today is that, they're getting more accessible. They're still not the easiest things to interact with, but non-technical people, I promise, there are plenty of places for you to contribute value, though.
Yeah, and more so these days. But it's the cultural elements which kind of like grab people, bring them in, and make them want to spend more time. And what they're doing when they spend that time is they're investing in the relationships with the other people. So they're also like working with great, collaborators and people who are super smart, but they're like, they're learning by osmosis, spending time sitting next to, like a lot of hack-along sessions and stuff like that. So we have a cohort program we're doing right now. We've been experimenting with for the last 6 months. Every few months we take 50 to 60 people and we run them through like these kind of like mock projects, and they build up these kind of teams, they form them themselves, and then they pitch them to the Raid Guild. And we're working with like other groups inside of our ecosystem to like redesign their UIs, re-envision like what their products could look like. And it's amazing to see the creativity from people who come from totally outside of the DAO ecosystem, who just come in and they're like, oh, this is cool, I want to build this, I like this, but I need a community person, right? I need a storyteller, and they find those people in those groups. And then by that process, by the end of that 2-month process, they're like really ready to just work in a DAO. So I think we should pivot a little bit and start to talk about like layer 0.
I feel like we're talking about layer 0
yeah,
already.
Exactly. But
I think like a DAO like Raid Guild kind of starts to expose layer 0. And for those unfamiliar with that term, like Ethereum is layer 1. That's like the settlement layer. That's Manhattan. That's the central everything. That's layer 1. There are other layer 1s, but we're at an ETH conference, so layer 1 is Ethereum mainnet. And then there's Arbitrum and Optimism and various like layer 2s that share security with layer 1 and whatever. It's all technical. But then layer 0 is really humans, and it's really like, and there's a lot of emergent properties of all this blockchain stuff that, even Bitcoin itself, like, yeah, it created like peer-to-peer money. That's really fucking cool. But it also proved peer-to-peer coordination is possible. And the emergent properties of that we're only now starting to even experiment with in DAOs. But so layer 0 is really like, connecting nodes of humans together in however they want, in ways that they want to create value together in whatever, and trying to figure out where that is for like various different kinds of people, basically. So, and there's a fucking lot to work through with that, like especially in DAOs, like as soon as you come from like a triangle pyramid Web 2 traditional organization, and you enter a DAO, like literally, this is not hyperbole, like everything is upside down, like everything.
Yeah, it's like, do whatever you want. And people are like, wait, but tell me what to do. And it's
how much do I get paid? How much do you want to get paid? Like, who's my boss? Are you the boss? Like, who's the leader here? Oh, well, do you want to be a leader? Like, just step up and...
If you're asking those questions, you might be the leader you're looking for.
Right. If you start asking a lot of questions, we'd be like, well, it sounds like you know a lot, so... Or at least you care about this, so maybe you should lead it,
But it's beautiful to see the webs, right, of talented people coming from different fields and different experiences, and then finding this open green field for creation, where they're like, wow, I can work on things, I can build things with friends, and I can like move in a swarm, right, where like...
And they don't just steal the money when you're not looking.
Yeah.
Like with the, we have this trustless mechanism that is a DAO. We all put our money into it. And then you hang there for a little while, and everybody could like try to put a proposal through to take the money, but they don't, and they haven't. So what you learn from that is like, oh, we're not just trying to extract value from each other.
Yeah, like it's okay to trust these people, right, with my funds and with my time as well, because where you choose to invest your time in this space is very important, right? It's going to influence you, it's going to affect you throughout the rest of your career. And if you can like work with people that you trust deeply, like on a technical level, but also on a human level, that creates this really wonderful base layer foundation for like growth as a human, which I find is like a huge...
And as a community. Humans,
which I find is like a huge, wonderful side effect of working with DAOs is you become a better human. You're better communicating. You're better coordinating. Like whatever you do, your superpower is like boosted up because the other people around you kind of look to you to do it, and no one's ever telling you like where you're stepping over the line or where you need to like rein it back in. It's just like, oh, do you want to move from like product to code, from like code to marketing? Like, go ahead, do it all. You're going to be the many hats person, which we have so many of those people who are multifaceted, multi-talented.
Yeah, and that is a super common trap too, right? Like a lot of people come in and there's like, oh, I can do anything, and I guess that means I can do everything, and then it's like, you can get like lost in that very quickly. It's all cool stuff. It's not. Well,
you go through this phase of so much excitement, so much energy, so much opportunity, and so everyone's like, "Hey, you're a dev that can do this, this, and that. Can you take on the next 15 projects?" And most devs are like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Wait.
Right.
And then they scale back.
The first time through, and then they're like, "Okay."
Yeah. How many projects can I work on at once? And Ven and I will tell you, over time, you can scale up, but I think Ven has participated in an experiment of how many DAOs can I actually be involved in and be impactful? So Ven, you're probably in 50 DAOs, I think.
Well, but the definition of a DAO is there is no agreed upon definition of a DAO. A DAO can just be an ephemeral mechanism, to do something.
They're not all building products.
Something that requires.
We launched a DAO yesterday for buying NFTs with friends, and we're just gonna ape money into a DAO contract, and we're gonna buy NFTs. All the people in the group are gonna buy NFTs from different events that we go to, and then we'll hold those NFTs. If we decide to do something with it or sell them in the future, we'll vote on it. So we'll govern those NFTs as well. But that doesn't require 10 hours of my time a week. Right. It just requires me to look around and be like, that's cool, or that guy's building cool cool NFTs. Like, let's buy these, right? And get consensus from the other members in the DAO. It's like, that does look cool. That is a cool idea. Like, so it's like tiered, right? Where it's like, okay, if it's 0.2 ETH, maybe it's 2 people. If it's 0.5 ETH, it's 5 people. Like, and then it scales up from there. We have a real soft consensus, and then we can take it to chain and say, like, we're going to vote on buying this NFT. And people are like, no, I hate that art. You know, they can rage quit their funds before we actually buy the NFTs. So, but like so many ephemeral DAOs, like what he's saying, because we believe in DAOs for everything. Like everything we do is DAOs. Like if we go to get coffee, we start a DAO and we're like, all right, put the money in the multi-sig, and then.
I mean, it's it's all about trying to get closer to, I think a lot of the experiments that a lot of us are doing are trying to, how much do we even really need organizations? How much can we just use like small coordination mechanisms between each other to do different things all the time? Organizations are troublesome. They are people now also, and they have their own egos. Like when you're part of an organization, you kind of like share ego with that organization a little bit. Now you're like working for that corporation, and that corporation's existence and its survivability is now a part of your identity and all these weird things.
It's very tribalistic in like a warsome tribalistic way.
Right. So
right?
I really think I'm only learning all this stuff like through DAOs, but I really think we should be careful with like where we organize and how strongly we organize, because as soon as we start an organization, it now has this capitalistic momentum behind it, especially if it's profit driven. And then now everybody's just doing that forever just to make profit, regardless of like whatever its actual purpose is. So I think like if we can break a lot of these things down into like, getting to closer to like a peer-to-peer coordination, then there's less of those types of things, and maybe we start to coordinate on things that we actually want to see happen in the world instead of just things that are like financially incentivizing us to do so. It's a very vastly different landscape on the other side of that. So.
Yeah, but I think like anywhere we can experiment with DAOs is somewhere where we want to go in and we want to try it. Many failed experiments, but we've learned so much from those failed experiments. Right. We ran a conference in Denver a couple months ago called MCon. It was like Metacartel's probably like our second official conference, but like the biggest one that we'd ever done. And it was a DAO in and of itself.
And only DAOs
were able to sponsor. So like we didn't have anyone on stage selling you anything or telling you to use anything.
Because we don't want anybody to sell us things.
Who wants to go to a conference and be sold on stuff, right? So, but we had all like the DAOs in our ecosystem, all of our friends, come and participate, and the DAO sponsored. I mean, I just made up the sponsorship. I'm like, you get, some people into the event, but the event was free. So it's like, you get some people into the event, we put your logo on stage, and that was it. But all the DAOs were like, yes, like we totally want to do that, because the DAOs and the DAO people knew that being in this epicenter of like DAOs and the connections that we'd be made from participating in those conversations or sitting around drinking beer at a brewery that we rented in Denver was like a place you really wanted to be. And so like, we're going to do it again. We're going to keep doing that. But like, I think it's totally back to the cultural thing of like, when you're in a room with many, many people from DAOs, you like see things in the way that like, you don't see competition, you see collaboration. Like you see the opportunities between these projects and you want to find a way to plug in. And so like, I may be a member of 15 or 20 DAOs, but like, I'm also aware of all the other DAOs that are out there doing different things that I might be able to help plug into or like participate in many different ways. And like being open in that sense allows for so much more opportunity and so much more value flow from me and my group into the other groups so that we can spread it around and create more fair landscape.
So this touches on a cool point too, which is, it goes back to my point about being careful with forming organizations in the first place. Once we form an organization and we start coordinating together in that organization, I like to think of that as like vertical coordination, and we've gotten pretty good at that in DAOs. But Yaler and I are both kind of like horizontal coordinators, where we like we do vertical coordination inside of whatever different projects all the time. But we also like coordinate those organizations between each other and like share information, take information from this one to this one, and like.
We become the channels between the nodes that need to communicate.
Yeah, that's kind of like a space that we're getting to these days. Is there's so many of them that I can't watch them all anymore. Like I could last year, but now I can't. So like we need to have mechanisms of like horizontal coordination where we can like share information better and things. And some people can handle that stuff easier than others, and that's fine. I think it's a collaboration between those who do horizontal coordination and those who do vertical. But
Cave devs and like the nuts and berries people, right?
Right.
Bring the food back to the cave.
How's our time?
I think we got 5 minutes. I'd love to open it up for
Questions?
questions if people have them. Anyone hands up questions, or we'll keep rambling about DAOs.
DAOs, coordination,
DAOs, questions about DAOs.
future of all this stuff.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I was curious. I don't have a clear question, but it's like if you can riff on like the difference between people that are kind of filtering into a DAO. So you could call it like what would we think of as like ICs in a startup, or like individual contributors versus like DAO constructors or architects. I'm curious. It seems like you guys just describe yourself as kind of horizontal connectors, and then you also have these vertical connectors. I'm curious what that like kind of space looks like to you.
Yeah, I think there's well, yeah, you probably have thoughts too, but there's definitely like a many repeating trends of people coming in as a contributor. And then, I mean, immediately if you have good ideas and the community's like backing your ideas, you're just a leader, like really fast. It's up to the community to like accept your work and your contributions, but if that happens, then congratulations, you're now a leader, you know? As long as you don't actually have any more power than anybody else, like the community can always take that away from you at any point in time. And put it in anybody else who has better ideas, you know. Yeah, but I see that happen a lot with people. Like they'll come in, find some way to do something, maybe on their main skill track or something, you know, like writing or design or code or something, contribute something. But then they're in the network, and then they can learn the network and see where all the different places are to contribute value. And then learn all kinds of different things. Like even myself, like I said, I'm a designer, like a visual designer by trade. But you know, these days I use design thinking and the same principles that I use from design, like you know, empathy and intent, and like designing or onboarding experience. Contributor experience is like a big thing. Like instead of user experience, like I do a lot of contributor experience design. You know, so. And there's a lot of that, people learning to do new things, but it is a track of like a pretty quick track for people.
And just to piggyback on that, I think like the key in this like individual contributors, as you say, is like you're asked to provide value first, right? Like with a lot of these programs or projects, like you're given some stipend or something, or there's some boot camp, but like in these ecosystems, like you really need to show up and prove to the group that you can provide value. And we allow people to do that in any way that suits them, basically. So it's like there are many opportunities, there are many ideas, but you're also free to create or build whatever you want to. And as soon as that value is recognized by the community of your peers, you are lifted up, right? To become in the community, to become a part of it, and then to run or take on anything you want to. But it's a very value-first ecosystem. So like we struggle with people from Web 2 sometimes because they're like, well, how do I get my $150,000 salary in this DAO thing? And it's like, well, it might take some time, but like first you go through these steps, and then you find your way into all these different projects, and you work on the things that are relative to you. So like what I like to do is focus on problem sets, where it's like, I'm working on a problem that's at the middle of these 5 DAOs. And so if I solve this problem, it affects all these groups of people and helps them all, versus like I'm building a product that's going to make a shit ton of yield. So yeah, that's the way I like to think about it.
Thank you.
I have a question about DAO and regulation. I think recently we started seeing, you know, states like Wyoming, for example, form a legal structure for DAOs. We have, you know, VCs like Andreessen Horowitz investing directly in vendor benefits, or even sort of giving proposals on how you can sort of set up legal entities around DAOs. I'm curious, what are your personal thoughts on sort of where the future landscape of regulation for DAOs go, and if Metacartel has a specific plan to sort of formalize an entity?
Well, Metacartel is definitely not going to have a legal entity.
Yeah, we're more like YOLO DAO verse.
But we're also only giving money away, so it's not.
Yeah, come after us, right?
Yeah, come and get us. We're literally just giving people money.
So I think Wyoming's cool. Wyoming's actually my home state. It's cool that they were able to like push a DAO legislation forward. It needs some work. It needs some tweaking to do, right? But the thing is, like, we've been doing DAOs with legal wrappers for a long time. We work with LexDAO, the legal engineering group, who's badass. They're doing a lot on that front. And I think like the future kind of looks like more hands off. It's like just relax on that, all that regulation stuff, right? Like there's tokens and there's like securities and that stuff, but like DAOs are just coordination mechanisms. So it's like there's really not a lot of like need to come and regulate people who are using coordination mechanisms. Like the token pieces are separate specifically, right? But we don't want to rush into the regulation scene because like you're going to stifle, you know, the innovation, the creation of these things themselves. But I think it's cool that they're doing it. But I would say like, don't rush into creating, well, this is my non-legal advice, right? Don't rush into creating a legal entity for yourself if you're just coordinating with a small group of people. See what value you're creating, see what the fit is, and then once you start to like gain value in your ecosystem or in your project, then explore it, right? Talk to some people who are crossing the barrier between legal and DAOs and crypto native ecosystems, because they can help guide you, right? Someone's probably done it before. Metacartel Ventures, which was like one of the first venture DAOs, specifically wrote the Grimoire spell book, which was like this really cool, like transcribed legal code
Yeah, it was basically
into
the smart
legal
contract, but
words.
it's transcribed into legalese. So
Yeah. But they did it, and it was a Delaware LLC. It was not a Wyoming DAO law or anything like that. And you know, as these things evolved, we'll just see more and more iterations, more states kind of grabbing onto it and making it what they are. But the more free landscapes, the more innovative landscapes will be the ones that I think see kind of more adoption and a faster growth.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that. And I think, I like definitely not legal advice, but I do really respect the Lex DAO, their legal engineers, and their kind of philosophy on this is, not speaking for them, but in general, like, first question is, what are we doing? What are we coordinating around? And where do we need to interface with the traditional system? Do we need to at all? Okay, and then that's where you work from. So what are your requirements to interact with the legal system? That's all that the legal entity is there for. It's not like we're kind of coded nowadays, like, oh, we're starting a company, got to start an LLC. But again, like, we may not even need to start organizations. We have coordination mechanisms. We can do peer-to-peer things for a long time before we're even at a point of organization. So, and one of the biggest risks is as soon as you start, legal entities are, but while there is an interface, there probably is if there is a necessary integration with the traditional finance, then use whatever works for that one thing. And then eventually, I guess to your second part of the question is like where it's going. And eventually what will happen is that you have like an LLC or whatever, wherever you are, because it's restricting. Like LLCs are, DAOs are global first. Like we don't do KYC in DAOs. We don't know your name. We don't know anything about you.
Yeah, we don't need to.
We don't need to. We only need to know what the value of your work is and what you bring to the community. That's literally all we care about. So it's very restricting to put a U.S. entity, and I don't have this view per se, but I empathize with it. There are a lot of people who do not want to be part of it, so you're immediately putting a coordination barrier to your formation of your whatever it is you're doing immediately. So I would wait as long as possible and find what you need to integrate it for, and then keep it as minimal as possible, and then over time we'll build like the Web3 part, the decentralized part just gets more and more, takes up more and more of that space of coordination, and that thing that interacts with the traditional world is less and less needed, and its powers just dissolve, just like the MakerDAO kind of like, the dissolving of the foundation we were talking about earlier. Like that progressive decentralization path is probably the only viable one. Like put the thing there while you need it. We needed the foundation. Sorry, we're done? Yeah, we're done.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks.